Jim Hind also has an eye for the perfect flower, the perfect natural material for a float. He's the floral director and vice president of the Fiesta Float Builders Company. His office filled with 17 years of the top award for the most beautiful floats, the sweepstakes. How did you get into this? I mean, do you have a design background or?
Well, I'm what I consider a native Californian, but I came to California when I was just a young boy of 5 years old from New York. My parents came out here. They couldn't handle the cold weathers in the East. So I saw my first parade when I was 6 years old, and from that moment on, I knew that at some point I would be involved with this beautiful event. Yes,
really?
Yeah. My whole career has been with an art background and in the floral industry. I think that what makes a float beautiful, naturally, first of all, is the color and the amount of fresh floral material that we can show the people, and more unusual types of materials, too. So, I mean, these surfaces, I was saying, have to be covered totally in botanical materials. But there's a lot of things that are what we call dry materials, like straw flower and statice and that sort of thing, where we can do immense surfaces in it, and we can prepare those very much in advance so that we're not under those deadlines with the perishable materials. So there's always a plan B kind of in the back of my mind, and when those things happen, it's generally never evident in the final the final product. You usually don't see that, oh, gee, they didn't have what they wanted to have. But somehow we just work it out. And Mother Nature is very kind to us in that respect. So we're able to pull this whole production off and put it on the street on the 1st of January, come rain or come shine.
Coming up, more on our special behind-the-scenes look at the making of the Rose Parade floats. I'm Cindy Dole, and next, how they created those realistic-looking historic photos of President Reagan on his tribute float, and why salt can't be used in a float, even though pepper can. Welcome back. I'm Cindy Dole, and on Home Wizards, I talk about ways to enjoy and love the spaces you call home. Well, often it's by doing something as simple as just enjoying nature, bringing it inside, or enjoying it outside by taking what you love in your home and making a beautiful outdoor space. All those things are considered in the crafting of these Rose Parade floats because it's all about appreciating what's natural and eventually covering each and every corner of every Rose Parade float. Jim Hind is vice president of Fiesta Floats, and as floral director, he always has an eye for something that will be the perfect material for the color on a float. Legendary float designer Raul Rodriguez does the concept, and then Jim Hind does the floral design. And he walked me through their barn, which is this huge place where all their floats are under construction right up until showtime in Pasadena. So now we're headed out into the barn. It doesn't quite look like a barn. It looks more like a hangar.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at this. It's huge. Look at all these pumpkins. Are those real pumpkins?
These are real. These all came from Cal Poly in Pomona from their fields out there. And those are the Hubbard squash I was saying that are not very pretty, but they look like rocks.
Yeah.
And these
pumpkins are in great shape.
They're beautiful. Yeah. Well, the pumpkins and squash, the winter crop, they hold really well, and we're going to be utilizing those on. We have a float that's a state fair.
So they'll just stay whole.
Yeah, they will. They're sort of like the produce area.
Yeah.
These I will be using them as rocks on a couple of different areas.
And those are what again?
This is called a Hubbard squash.
Hubbard squash.
And
it really is odd looking.
It is odd, and
they're kind of white and
gray,
sagey green and gray,
and bumpy and ugly, and
they have a lot of warts.
Yeah, that was on a float. You'd think that was a rock.
Sure. And you can't use real rocks.
No, because real rocks they're not botanical; they're mineral. It's so funny, you can use pepper because pepper is a seed that grows, but you can't use salt because salt is a mineral. And
funny, I don't think people think of that.
No, you don't, because salt and pepper go together.
Sure.
And
you can't use salt because it's a mineral. One of the most stunning features you'll see on the Rose Parade floats are what's called floragraphs. They're pictures that are turned into floral pictures, like the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation float.
Through the Ronald Reagan Foundation, through his presidential library, and they provided us with these photographs, which then were enlarged, and they're from 7 feet to 11 feet tall, where we had them enlarged They're all black and white prints. We then painted them over the photograph to make it like a paint by number picture, and there is 7 shades of material or of seed work on them to create the black and white photographs. And
So what kind of seeds or materials do you
it's
think?
onion seed, rice, the sweet rice, and poppy seed, a ground pepper, and
But
then,
no salt, because I've learned that.
no salt. And then we've taken various of those components and blended them together in various, say, 2 to 1 or 3 to 1.
It looks almost like a sepia photo in a way.
It
or,
is.
Yeah.
Well, it's in a black and white sepia tones.
Yeah,
It's
neat. Like an
and-
old photograph.
right?
Yeah.
And it's depicting from his early life when he was in the entertainment business to his presidency, and there is a life-size statue of him here at the front of the float, which is a replica of the statue of Ronald Reagan that is in the Capitol in Washington, D.C.
And so who will be on this float, do you know?
There is no riders on this float. It will be accompanied by a color guard of all of our armed forces.
So no Nancy, huh?
No. Nancy has seen the float and is very thrilled with its presentation. But
So she came down here? She was right
yes.
here? Yeah. Aw,
And
nice.
Nancy she's up there in
I know, she's very frail,
and
yeah.
She's very frail.
But I bet she was probably brought to tears, huh?
Yes.
And there are so many elements of these Rose Parade floats that can really tug at the heartstrings. Take the flower vials, for instance, and how they're used to pay tribute in some way.
Every one of the roses that go on a float, and most of the orchids and iris, and in some cases a lot of the carnations, each one has their own little water vial, and there's a little cap that goes on here, and I can show you. We've been earlier in the last few weeks have been preparing all these and filling them. Each tray contains 50 vials, and so it enables us to keep a good way of counting, and because everything that comes in when you're dealing with 11 different floats that I've ordered the flowers for, every order that comes in has a specific destination, and we have a fantastic crew that does just the prepping, what we call flower prep crew. They receive the flowers. The flowers generally come to us all tagged from our vendors as to which float they belong to. But there's roses that come in, all have to be prepared by cutting them a particular certain length to fit in this vial for the desired effect that I want to achieve, depending on where it's going on the float. Some of them might have a stem length that varies anywhere 2-3 inches, and that makes a big difference in the actual when it's placed on the float. So they take care of all of that, and each tray of vials is tagged for the particular float that it belongs to, and in some cases for the area that it belongs on that float.
What does it say on that vial there?
Oh, these are names, and this is really the thing, because a lot of our clients, particularly in the charity end of it, we'll supply these vials to them, and they'll sell them as a fundraising project, and the person gets to put their name on the vial, and that way that person has a personal involvement, and they in some way are on that float for the event. And it's a very, very wonderful way
That's sweet.
for some of these organizations to raise money.
Or like Donate Life. I think they have like
Right.
a little wish, or like the September
Yes.
11th float.
Yes.
They're going to have tributes from all over the country
Right.
on the vials. It's also special. Yeah.
These particular ones that you're looking at came from, that I used just as an example here, they came from an organization in Florida called Give Kids the World, and these were children who had all were experiencing life-threatening diseases, and these were all in honor of them, and they have been recycled and have been used once and were on that float. And so I just have them here in my office as an example that this is what the the various things that can, not only can this hold a flower and preserve it for several days, but this is giving somebody more hope, and it is representing somebody, and they're thinking of it when they watch the parade that, gee, I've really been involved with this event.